Hi everybody, this is Dan Stolebarger. Welcome to this week's KFIR Middle East Update, week of April 25th. A reminder, go to our website right away, holygroundexplorations.com, to access the PDF PowerPoint that accompanies this presentation. Pictures, much more information than the time that I have available for this YouTube. So check that out. First things first, promo time. Issachar Israel tour coming up. We're excited. September 15th through the 24th, 2019. Explore the Israel not only of the Bible, but the Israel of today. Issachar, the sons of Issachar, understood the times, knew what Israel should do. It's important for us to be in the shoes, in a sense, of those from the tribe of Issachar, understanding the times that we're living in, knowing what we should do. This tour is weighted more towards the Israel of today. We'll have Israeli speakers meeting with our groups, but you also get, of course, a trip to the Holy Land. You've got to experience the Israel of the Bible. My musings for this week, it's sort of like, let me give you a punch and let you think about it. A few quotes that caused me to pause and reflect. One from Max Lucado. He says, God never said the journey would be easy. Amen. But he did say that the arrival would be worthwhile. I like that. And the second, sometimes God will lead us into the desert so that we will learn to thirst again. Matthew 5 and 6 says, blessed are those that hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Like I said, I'll let you have a Selah moment about those two things. News bites. Bernie Sanders in the news. Here we go. Israel's now run by a right-wing, dare I say, racist government. Bernie? Are you calling Bibi racist? Oh, we've got a lot yet to look forward to with this upcoming 2020 election. We'll have many more articles in today's presentation from the Democratic Party and what's actually going on there. ISIS back in the news, right when you thought they were fading away. They claimed responsibility for the devastating string of suicide attacks against churches and hotels in Sri Lanka that killed at least 321 people. And as you know, on Easter Sunday. On a lighter note, much lighter note, Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu has basically said that his government will name a town in the Golan after Donald Trump in honor of the U.S. president's decision to recognize Israeli sovereignty over the Golan. I wonder if they'll just call it Trump Town. What's going on up north? Hassan Nasrallah, the Hezbollah chief, is quoted as warning that Israel could be looking towards a preemptive strike against Hezbollah in the north, and again to remove the threat on the border once and for all. He then, apparently this guy just lives in a bunker fearing his life, believes that he's a target of the Mossad, probably is. But then he says if anything takes place, Hezbollah has the power to bomb Ben Gurion Airport. So we're going to have to wait and see how all that pans out. The new Trump peace plan, get ready for this. A quote that Trump's peace plan now will be dropping old terminology. You will not hear the phrase, you ready? Two-state solution. You will not hear that phrase when the Trump peace plan is released. Interesting times in which we live, don't you agree? And finally, 64% of Americans like Israelis. However, only 41% like their government. Okay, let's jump into the articles for this week. Iran versus the USA. Iranian media says that the parliament has approved a bill that designates U.S. military forces as terrorist forces. The legislation comes after lawmakers in Tehran last week approved the bill labeling U.S. troops in the Middle East as terrorists. They went on to say that the bill demands that the Iranian government will take unspecified action against other governments that formally back the U.S., that being Saudi Arabia and Israel. New York Times, this is just bizarre stuff. Jesus the Palestinian. I keep trying not to include these congresswomen, these Muslim congresswomen, on every week's presentation, but I can't help myself. This Ilhan Omar, the Democratic House representatives from Minnesota. She's got a history of anti-Semitic remarks and, the dismissal of the Islamic 9/11 attacks, her phrase as, quote, some people who did something. But again, through this New York Times op-ed by Eric Kopej, which claims that Jesus was born in Bethlehem, was most likely a Palestinian man with dark skin. Again, Omar quotes this. It's crazy that this Palestinian identity has been incorporated somewhat into the Democratic Party. Just keep in mind the name Palestinian, it didn't come until the time of Hadrian when he renamed the country Palestina. That's a couple centuries after the death of Jesus. How in the world could Jesus be a Palestinian? For the record, Jesus was Jewish. Okay, deal with it. And then, of course, Rashida Tlaib, her quotes this week. The Zionist Organization, by the way of America, has released a statement concerning her, basically calling for her removal from key committees. The statement also called on the Democratic leadership to throw her out of the party. According to the Zionist Organization of America, she calls Israel a racist country on a basis of the lie that Israel discriminates against those, quote, darker-skinned supporters. She supports the destruction of Israel in favor of an Arab-dominated state. Her quote, it has to be a one state. She absolutely backs the withholding of U.S. aid to Israel and openly supports the BDS movement. Again, trying not every week to talk about these folks, but how can I help myself? An article I think is important once again to understand the legacy of hate. This is titled Unknown to Hero. Now, before March 17th, Omar Abu Layala was just an ordinary, unknown 19-year-old Palestinian, but now he's a Palestinian symbol and a hero. Why? Because on that day, he stabbed and murdered a rabbi, Ahid Edinger, the father of 12, and then 2 days later, he died during an exchange of gunfire, and when he was killed, the president Mahmoud Abbas declared him as a martyr. His words is that this person, now Omar Abu Layala, is the newest symbol, and he is a role model for all Palestinians today because he stabbed and he murdered an Israeli soldier, and because he shot and murdered a father of 12, a hero, a legacy of hate. Hamas, you can read this article. They don't give a rip about their people in Gaza. You should just read the article and see the amounts of money that the leadership of Hamas have pocketed on their own as individuals. I mentioned the fact that there's a concern from Hezbollah about a war in the Galilee. There's an article on that. And I'll conclude with this picture of the week. Take a look at it. You know, the last time that we were in Warsaw, we've been blessed to go to Auschwitz and Krakow and Birkenau, and we've been to Warsaw on those trips as well a couple times. And I've always kind of walked through and wanting to see the remainders of the Warsaw Ghetto, and always disappointed to see how it's just been scrubbed away as if it didn't even exist, just little remnants of the ghetto. In this picture here, you can see this massive complex, but this, in the light, what they can do now with these lightings, you can see how they put on this building what the Warsaw Ghetto, what the synagogue looked like during the time that the Warsaw Ghetto broke out in April 19th of 1943, when about 750 Jewish young men, fighters, they were armed with just pistols and a few Molotov cocktails, and they finally had enough of just seeing lambs led to the slaughter, taken to the Treblinka death camp, that they rose up. And so this is the uprising of the Warsaw Ghetto, and these fighters, they knew they were doomed, but they wanted to die at a time and place of their own choosing. You know, they held out nearly a month, longer than some of the countries that Germany invaded. But this sort of scrubbing of the Jewish presence in Poland has always just been so disheartening to me. And so this photo here just struck me, and I wanted to share it with you. So that is this week's Middle East update. I want to encourage you to take a look at the last slide, talking about our KFIR global community. We're continuing to grow, but I really believe in what we're doing and would encourage you to invite your friends, your family, your church members, or whatever of your church family to join this community. We're all about the Bible. We're all about a daily psalm, about reading the Word, about having these Middle East updates, as well as becoming a community of prayer. So check all that out on the website. Sign up. It's free. With that, out of time. God bless you, and shalom.